Alright guys, Jameson and Alex here. Today we're going to be talking about the Many Warlock from Griffon Saddlebag Book 2, which you can get access to that book and all the content in it by pre-ordering. We have a link down below to check that out. If you're new to the channel, what we're going to do is go through all the abilities gained in the subclass, and we're going to rate the roleplay, combat, and synergy based on how the abilities gained in the subclass improve on the base class abilities.
That's correct.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to be entered in our D&D Beyond Players Bundle giveaway. All that being said, let's jump straight into it. Alex, what do we get?
We're going to touch immediately on your favorite source subject, and maybe all of 5th edition, is Warlock's expanded spell list. We're getting access to Entangle, Magic Missile, Scorching Ray, See Invisibility, Blink, Non-Detection, Arcane Eye, Black Tentacles, Mislead, and Telepathic Bond. And the reason why, for those of you maybe newer to our series, and every time we talk about Warlocks, is there are a few things that upset this man more than the fact that Warlocks don't get free spells with their subclasses. And he's right, because let's just say you gave a Warlock 47 free spells known. They're only going to be casting 2 spells per short rest anyway, so what does it matter how many spells they know?
Yeah.
And then later on you finally can do 3, but
it's very sad.
You're not casting spells endlessly anyway, so I don't know how many spells you know. It's the opposite problem from Sorcerer, where Sorcerer only knows like 15 spells ever, but they can cast as many as everybody else can.
Exactly.
Except for Warlocks.
It is a very strange design choice. We'll see if that changes in the future.
They should.
That being said, at level 1, we also have what this whole thing is built around, which is Eldritch Heads.
Yeah.
You gain a number of Eldritch Heads equal to your proficiency bonus, so you're scaling right off the bat. Only you and creatures with true sight can see these heads, which sprout from your shoulders as representations of your patron. You can choose to ignore the heads and cause them to vanish from your vision. These Eldritch Heads provide you with motes of power from your patron that can be expended to grant the following benefits. Once per turn, you can expend 1 head when you hit a creature with an attack to cause that creature to take extra psychic damage equal to 1 plus your proficiency bonus. Or when you make a charisma intimidation check, you can expend 1 head to gain advantage on the roll. When you do, your Eldritch Heads become briefly visible to everyone. That seems intimidating.
Yeah.
And then lastly, we have when you fail a death saving throw, you can expend 1 head to succeed instead. So there is that. And, of course, when a head is expended, its appearance becomes wispy and gaseous. Gaseous? What a word.
Fun words.
But its glowing eyes remain. You regain all expended heads when you finish a long rest. In addition, you can use a bonus action to beseech your patron to restore 2 of your expanded heads. Once you use this ability, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. So you're going to get proficiency bonus per day plus 2, essentially. Yes. But you do have to use the bonus action to gain those plus 2.
And this gives, in terms of flavor, very much to like the whole trope of like angel and devil on the shoulder kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But instead of that, it's like the artwork kind of tells you got these 4 like Hydra heads or dragon heads like whispered in your ear and like whatever else. It would be very terrifying in terms of an intimidation check. I would give like just the most massive bonuses to intimidation, like a regular person. All of a sudden, there's just like 4 magical purple dragon heads, or it's like, what are those? kind of thing. But that's just me. Also at level 1, we have Guarded. As long as you have at least 1 of your Eldritch Heads remaining, you can't be surprised. And if a creature would gain advantage on an attack roll against you due to having its ally within 5 feet of you, it makes the attack roll without advantage. You basically have a built-in passive counter to pack tactics or any similar like effect. At
6th level, we get Improved Eldritch Heads. You gain the following benefits. You can use a bonus action to expend 1 Eldritch Head, reabsorbing it to gain a number of temp HP equal to 2d6 plus your charisma modifier. Or, once per turn, you can expend 1 head to take a reaction, even if you've already used your reactions. You can't use this benefit on the same turn that you take your normal reaction. And then, when you fail a saving throw against being charmed, frightened, or put to sleep by magic, you can expend 1 head to re-roll the saving throw. If you do so, you must use the new roll. So just a little bit more extra utility, survivability.
At level 10, we have Group Think. Your Eldritch Heads are always there to support your mortal mind and body. You gain bonus to intelligence checks, perception checks, and intelligence saving throws equal to half your proficiency bonus.
There you go. But before we get on to the capstone, big ability for finish off the subclass, we have a quick shout out to the Humblewood Tales. Make sure you check out their Kickstarter. It's an expansion onto the Humblewood setting. Wildland folk animal creature type setting.
That's going to be the entire description there. Wildland creature animal folk.
Also have 5 new campaigns in here from levels 3 to level 8. Pre-made characters, magic items, expansion on the lore, definitely going to be worth a look if you're fans of Humblewood. And if you're not, it's definitely worth a look to check out anyways.
Yeah.
That link down below helps support us. That out of the way, get onto the capstone here. Eldritch Frenzy at level 14. You can use an action to revive your expended Eldritch heads in a frenzied burst, during which time they become visible to everyone. When you do, you regain all expended heads, which release a thunderous roar, audible out to 300 feet as they tear into existence. Choose a number of creatures within 60 feet of you, up to a number of heads you regain in this way. Each target must make an intelligence saving throw against your Warlock spell save DC. On a failed save, the target takes 4d8 psychic damage and is incapacitated until the end of your next turn as its mind is flooded with otherworldly energy. On a success, target takes half as much psychic damage and isn't incapacitated. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. Lots of things to be said about this, so stay tuned for the rating portion, which is up next. First up is the roleplay value asterisk, as always. Talking about roleplay, we're talking about interacting with the world around you, interacting with NPCs, non-combat scenarios, avoiding combat, basically things outside of the initiative order.
Yeah.
Not talking about your class fantasy, history, lore, background, that's on you as a player. We can't rate you, but we can rate the abilities gained in the subclass, how they might improve your potential in those roleplay scenarios.
Bingo.
Whew. So, all that being said on here, you get some interesting options. You have the advantage on intimidation, which can come up. There's the ability to not be surprised, which definitely can play into RP. If someone's trying to ambush you or something, you could potentially avoid that and maybe deter or completely avoid a combat because of that, maybe. Rerolling specific saves can be nice. It's a little bit more on the niche side on there. And then half proficiency for intelligence and perception is... I mean, you're never going to be upset about getting some extra perception. Yeah, let's be honest.
No. It's way too commonly used in 5th edition, the way the mechanics are set up to not be helpful.
Right. So it is definitely very interesting. There's some solid options on here. Not really much to say about the spell list on here, just because there are some decent options for roleplay on here. But you're a warlock, you don't get very many spell slots, and you have to choose these spells. They don't just get added to your spell list, as we mentioned already.
Sore spot.
So just get past that real quick. So, interesting, solid choices. We went with a 3.5, just mostly because it's tied around the limited number of uses, and based on, so many uses per day, you might be a little bit hesitant using these things outside of combat.
But the whole RP spell list is you're a warlock, so casting RP spells is never a good idea.
Right.
Unless you really need it.
Right. So some nice benefits on here, but maybe a little bit more on the limited uses kind of side of things.
On the combat side of things, again, looking at the spell list, there are some very useful spells, but again, as a warlock, you don't have that many spell slots, so you're better be using your spell slots wisely in terms of that. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at primarily at the rest of the subclass where we're getting our better impact from. Your Eldritch Heads give you plenty of choices. Again, the bottom thing with the whole death saving throws is like, you hope you never have to use it, ideally. You probably will, because almost everybody goes unconscious at some point and has to make a death saving throw. But we both have very strong opinions of just... I hate having abilities that are geared toward that, because again, you're hoping you never get to use one of your abilities, which just doesn't feel good. Yeah. I understand for flavor-wise why some subclasses are going to have them, and it's fine. It's just that never feels good to have an ability that you hope you never have to use.
Right.
And of course, your Eldritch Heads, you can get some extra damage if you want in there. It's not a ton of damage, but again, you have the option, especially if you know something's kind of getting low and you want to try to burst it down. Then yeah, sure, it's there as a choice, especially early on, because your heads aren't doing a ton much for you in combat there, because again, you hope you're not having to go unconscious. You can get your the heads back, get a couple of them back as a bonus action once a day. So if you haven't used any and you want to just throw some extra damage in there, you can, knowing you can at least get 2 back in case you wanted to have them later in the day. Your guarded thing is niche in the fact that you've got to have somebody who has a pack tactics ability or something with a similar effect to get that to work. So if you don't encounter that, that's not getting used, but it's never a bad thing to have when it does come up, because it does prevent you from getting pounced on by multiple things and getting that advantage out of there.
Which you, again, hope you never get surrounded, and your objective is going to be to not get surrounded.
Yeah, therein lies the problem. But that seems like it's just Warlock in general. It's like you've got options, but you can't do them very often, or you hope that you don't have to use them, kind of thing. Your Eldritch Heads would be the improvement at 6. You're getting some temp HP. Cool. It's not a ton, but again, it's an option, and you can get some of your heads back, so it's fine. The interesting one is the extra reaction, because there are some spells that take reactions, like absorb elements, things like that. But again, warlock spells. Anyway, counterspell, for example. If you really wanted to have that counterspell and you can still have your other reaction to something else, you can. So that's unique, and I do like that. It just is a unique option to get an extra reaction that's not normally there.
Yeah, if you have Warcaster, it'd be good.
Yep, absolutely. And the failed saving throw against being charmed or frightened or put to sleep by magic. Again, you hope it's not gonna happen a ton, but again, It's an option there if you do have it. That one bothers me less because you're more likely to be okay encountering that than waiting to be knocked unconscious for a death save.
Right.
The groupthink, you get a little bit of a help there with the intelligence saving throws. It's just half your proficiency bonus, which is not a ton. It's going to cap out at 3, but it's still something, and it's not bad. Because if you're not a wizard, artificer, rogue, because rogues get intelligence saving throw proficiency, and or a Eldritch Knight fighter or some other thing or with Arcane Stretcher Rogue. I'm going with all the specific examples that actually use intelligence for their actual mechanics of their class. It's not many. Like, it's a dump stat it's like the number one dump stat for a lot of things that are strength. Based on if you're a caster, you may dump strength instead. So as a warlock, you're definitely looking at your charisma, your con, your dex for helping your armor class a little bit. So your intelligence is not going to be a high stat. So they're just helping you out because there's not a ton of intelligence saving throw spells, but the ones that they're violent. Which gets us as a wonderful smooth transition to the capstone, which is one of my most favorite capstones I have seen, especially from a unofficial content. I love the creativity of this. It encourages you to spend all your heads so you can maximize the efficiency of coming back and just almost like a reincarnating your Patreon, It's great. It's audible out to 300. There's a ton of wonderful flavor in the way this is written in here, and you're choosing a number of creatures within 60 feet, so it's again not hurting your allies, which is great. And it's an intelligence saving throw. Oh, brutal. The psychic damage is fine because it's psychic damage. That and force damage, 2 best damage types in the game, just because how few things resist those damage types. But it's the incapacitated until the end of your next turn. So you're guaranteeing yourself a chance to abuse the people that you have incapacitated on your next turn as well. And this is the kind of thing that just creates absolute joy with your entire party when you incapacitate 4 things for a whole round of combat. It's like you're taking 3 things out of, so they skip their turn, and then this guy is just going to die.
Action economy.
This guy is just dead, and it's one of the things that he harps on all the time about. It's the hardest thing with playing DM is balancing action economy, especially when you've got a party of 4, 5, 6 or more players. Figuring out, okay, I want to make this combat challenging, but not too bonkers. Trying to figure all that part out. So score-wise, we went with a 3.5 of a possible 5. Again, a lot of positive things I discussed about, but again, the challenges for this, as with seems like Warlock in general, is either how often are you going to be using the abilities, like the death saving throws, or the pack tactics counter, or the against charm and sleep things, or having a need for an extra reaction. They're cool that you can do them, but how often? And again, the spells and other effects that you get. You're a warlock, so the number of spells becomes an issue. So it's very cool, very flavorful, and it definitely has some very fun and potent things you can do, especially when you hit 14 and get that capstone online. You can just become a one-man, group CC. Right. But it definitely has its limitations.
I think the thing that really carries us is the capstone is so solid, and I'll just go straight into synergy with this. I like that it encourages you, incentivizes you to spend your heads and not just hoard them to yourself.
Because there are a lot of choices. Even all of them aren't impactful all the time. There are a lot of ways you can use them, and it gives you 2 different ways to get them back. One, just to get some bonus actions to get 2 back, and of course your capstone, which
and you do get some utility again. You can deal a little bit extra damage here and there. The death save thing, you hope it doesn't ever come up. it is what it is on there. But then also you get some healing, which I say it's pseudo healing because it's temp HP, so you can only do so much on there. But it is nice to have that option because you're not necessarily the most tanky subclass by far on here. But free healing, you're never going to be upset about that. And then the extra reaction is probably going to be, the extra reaction might actually end up being more valuable a lot of times than the extra damage.
If you ever trigger a reaction, knowing that you have the complete freedom to do it again, is going to be the most valuable when it
start doing some weird stuff where you're like using a ready to action because that technically uses your reaction, and then once you trigger another reaction, then you can use it.
Yeah.
So it's like because it says you can't use the reaction like basically twice on the same turn.
Right.
So you have to use them on different turns, but you could in that way like ready in action, hold something, and then do some shenanigans.
Yeah.
So it can be done. It's interesting. You have to be a little bit more clever to do it that way, but it is a lot of internal synergy between the heads and the usages of those, and it does scale quite well. So with that, we gave it a 4 on the synergy.
Yeah.
Gives you some survivability, a little bit extra damage, a little bit more utility, and then the capstone is just bonkers, and it's going to help your whole party. Like Alex said, it's going to be really happy when that thing goes off, even if it hits like 1 or 2 things.
Yeah, because then you know, like, this thing's incapacitated. If it just gets to 1, your entire party's like, that thing's now dead.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, a round of your party on something incapacitated.
Like, heaven forbid you've got a fighter and a paladin in your group.
Yeah, that'd be brutal.
Good lord. Or a barbarian, even with brutal criticals of barbarians, and you can just cut things down.
Yeah, so definitely very unique, if anything.
Yeah.
This is, I don't know if I mentioned this before in some of the other videos, but there's basically, to us, there's like 3 kinds of subclasses. You have the subclass that it benefits up on the weaknesses of the class.
Yep.
Then you have the subclasses that double down on the strengths of the class.
Yeah, further specialize in what it's good at.
And then you have this kind of subclass, and like Rune Knight fighters, like Rune Child sorcerers, like Battlemaster fighters, where they have a whole new system that is added that you can use as a resource on top of that. So this one definitely skews into that side, which is more on the
Mercantile Bard out of this book. With all the coins instead of your regular Bardic Inspiration. That's kind of fun.
It's interesting.
It's modified. It's a whole new system. It's just a modified version of it.
Yeah. Well, I would say that kind of leans more towards like the, doubling down on what you're good at. Making Bardic Inspiration 100%. I don't know. There's a little bit of gray area. This is not a perfect system. It's not a perfect explanation, but this is just kind of, in my head, I split subclasses up. At this point, after we've done 150 of them, who knows? We get close to that.
It's so many. It's so many.
Hey, again, some good ideas for stuff on here. But all that being said, really interesting on here. Don't want to ramble on too much.
And to get the flavor, this is of the ones in the book. This may be one or 2 for me in flavor.
Oh yeah.
Well, the way you could play this in, because I can imagine you're like talking to the heads for like, and it's like, what's wrong with this dude? He's just over here talking to himself all the time, and you're just getting counsel from your patron. It's just floating heads around there, and then you just decide to make him visible. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, that's what he's talking to. Oh, okay, I'll leave him alone now.
Yes, definitely very flavorful.
Yeah,
but thanks again to Griffon Saddlebag. We've had a lot of fun going through these subclasses. There is 1 more left. And you do not want to miss this next one. It's crazy. So,
do we dare say we left it down?
You have to wait and see.
It's debatable.
So don't miss out on the last one on here. Awesome stuff from Griffon Saddlebag. Make sure you pre-order that book, get access to all the stuff and everything else in the book. There's tons of stuff. Just become a Patreon and get access to so much more.
Yes.
So there is that. Check them out, guys. Humblewood Tales, awesome expansion to an already fantastic setting on here. Don't want to miss out on this Kickstarter. So make sure you check out those links down below, guys. If you enjoyed the video, remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you know when our new videos are coming out. And as always, thanks for watching.